Hello, and welcome back to Radioactive Ramblings. This is our show, Ramblers Rising. I'm your host, Richard.
And I'm your other host, Aaron. Today we are going to be going over chapters 23 through 25 of Red Rising again, because we recorded this once before and my microphone audio was, let's say, not too good. I don't think that my microphone was picking up on anything. I think that it was going through my headphones, which have a very old and unintelligible microphone on them. So we're
It was
here
kind of
re-recording.
stinky.
Yeah, it sounded a little shitty. Richard, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. I went to Barnes and Noble, picked up the Book of Bill, the first book of Mistborn, and the fifth book of the Red Rising series. It was very
Oh,
productive. How about
sweet.
you?
I'm doing pretty good. Me and I shouldn't even say me because I didn't really do any of it, but our other co-host Chase, who he and I share an apartment, was making pumpkin cookies this morning, and I was watching and laughing as he was trying to ice them to varying degrees of
So,
success.
why wasn't I invited?
There's so many pumpkin cookies. Get your ass down here.
Uh, Maybe just bring them up.
I mean, I will be there in like a week and a half.
Yeah, I'm hyped. I know.
Yeah. Might have to do a double recording of Red Rising next week so that
Yeah,
I
just so we
can,
can.
yeah, stay on schedule for that.
Yeah, but it'll be great. I meant to text you. We, it seems, are having some kind of Thanksgiving thing on probably on Black Friday, I believe, is the
Okay.
plan.
Gotcha.
Be there or be square, buddy.
I'm sure I can make it to that. Well, if I'm not 100% sure, I'll make it 100% sure.
Oh, I also have to like get details, but
Yeah. Nice. Well, I'm excited. I'm excited to come home and visit, see you, see my dog, see my family.
oh my god, Galleon,
Galleon the Golden Doodle.
what a dog!
He's certainly something. He's a little goofball. Well, not so little. He's like 120 pounds, but he's a
He's
goofball, all
he's
right.
bigger than you at this point, bud.
He weighs almost as much as I do.
Damn.
Yeah, kind of crazy. But he's got that standard poodle in him for sure.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, definitely. You've got a dog that's not ridiculously large, so
I That's correct. Although the vet does say that she's fat.
she's a small dog. I don't know.
She's fat for her size, though, unfortunately. But we don't care. It's not
Yeah.
to the point where it's like unhealthy. We just, you give her a treat and she's all happy.
Yeah, just a treat or two overweight, a little bit spoiled.
Yeah, of course.
And that's how dogs should be.
Damn straight.
All right. Should we get into it with chapter 23 Fracture yet again?
Yeah, again, I'm glad though this time I'm not tired as hell from building a Lego set at 4 in the morning the night before.
Yeah, you got that
So
Hollow Knight Lego set that's been all over my TikTok for you page.
yeah, I'm staring at him right now.
It's so sick. I've released Silk Song, please.
It's
Team
never gonna
Cherry.
happen. Never gonna happen.
I don't think it is either, but a man can hope
One day.
one day. So, starting us off with chapter 23, Fracture, it has been 4 days since Titus brought home the first slave, and House Mars has actually divided itself into four different tribes. Antonia leading the mid drafts, Titus leading some of the high drafts and some of the mid drafts, Darrow leading the mid and the low drafts, and then we have Goblin, who's kind of a tribe of one at this point, off doing his own thing, right?
Oh yeah, he as I put in the fucking outline, he's just kind of gallivanting through the woods. I love that
Yeah,
word. It's so whimsical.
gallivanting for sure. Makes me think that he's just skipping through the woods.
Okay, good. I'm glad it's not just me. But yeah, he skips through the woods wearing his wolf pelt, and he really has earned the name Goblin already. He kills shit with his bare hands, and they think he's tamed wolves at this point.
Severu is just here to spread his aura. I mean,
Oh, okay.
both in the literal sense because he stinks canonically, I think at this point because he's literally wearing a dead wolf pelt, and also because he's
Um,
a cool character.
yeah, Severo, one of his rules later on is that, oh my god, is pixies don't shower before battle. So he doesn't shower before fights. And Severo at some points will be on like he'll be in a battle every single day for like months on end.
So he's
So
just
so he
rank.
really just stinks.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a scene later on where they literally think that he's like an abomination that was caused from like nuclear radiation, and it's just Severo wearing his wolf pelt, stinking like a motherfucker.
Someone needs to teach him how to cure the wolf hide, like do the whole tanning method.
No,
Someone needs to get that stink off of that wolf pelt. He needs to figure that one out.
I think he does, but the problem is that like he just doesn't take care of himself when he's at war.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if stinking is what makes you happy when you're in battle, I guess do what makes you happy when you're putting your life on the line every day. I don't know, man, but
Yeah,
poor Darrow, he's got to smell that.
yeah, but yeah. So there's been some friction between the tribes already, as we could kind of guess. But Cassius and Darrow, they kind of do their own thing, and they really bond a lot or at the start of this chapter. And then Cassius ruins it by bringing up his dead brother, and Darrow's just sitting there like, "Oh yeah, I killed that guy. I should feel like a terrible person."
Yeah, I mean, Darrow internally is probably he's struggling a little bit between like, do I feel bad because I'm kind of getting close with this guy and I killed his brother, or do I just say fuck it because eventually I'm gonna fuck these people over, and also he was a gold, so he's a little conflicted at this point.
Yeah, he definitely has the. I would say he has the moral high ground on this one, even though murdering people is wrong. You kind of had to do it.
Yeah, it was kill or be killed in that situation, so he didn't have too much of a choice, and especially if he wants to get through the entirety of the institute, he had to make that difficult call and actually do it.
Yeah.
But after they have their little bonding moment and where Darrow feels a little bit guilty, we get some notable people in Darrow's tribe. We have Quinn, Leah, Clown, Screwface, Weed, Pebble, and Thistle, which are mostly nicknames. I don't think that Quinn and Leah
No,
are their
Quinn and
nicknames.
Quinn and Leah, those are their names, but everyone else, yeah. No one had a kid and was like, you know what? Yep, that's Screwface right there.
I mean, you might if they were really like a messed up looking kid.
I mean, Screwface is messed up, but I love Screwface. I believe it's a he. It's been a minute. Um, one of my favorite characters in the second trilogy for sure. I mean, he doesn't do much in the first trilogy, and he's really
Hmm.
only important in the last book. Well, the sixth book, I shouldn't say the last, but he's goaded.
Yeah, good old Screwface. But
Yeah,
Darrow orders Thistle to screw with Leah to get back at her. Um, or I'm sorry, to get her to lock in, not to get back at her.
yeah, no,
And
get her to
Richard,
lock in, motherfucker.
exactly, lock in, motherfucker.
And it kind
um,
of works. I mean, she's a lot more like stable after that.
yeah, she really does like it works. She locks in and becomes a very integral part of Darrow's tribe. I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And Roke and Darrow debate a stronger Mars with Titus in charge or a weaker Mars with Darrow in charge. Basically, the argument here is over who will be the eventual Primus of House Mars because they've all gone into their separate tribes. No one has claimed that title yet, and they're essentially dis- disunified, I guess would be the term, or not united
Yeah,
at all. And it's just they're in a bad place if they want to fight the other houses.
yeah. All I gotta say, a vote for Darrow is a vote for the people. All right, vote for Darrow.
I mean, literally, it is. Like he's working for the people at this point. He was sent here by the sons of Ares, and they don't know that, but I'm
He's the
sure that
breaker of chains, all right, Darrow.
he is not Daenerys Targaryen.
I don't think you understand that he literally is the breaker of chains in later parts of the series. I love Darrow.
That's interesting. Like, does he actually get that moniker?
It's only one of like his 20 monikers, and honestly, it's one of the weaker ones because come on, being known as the fucking Reaper,
Yeah,
that's hard.
yeah. I can never hear the title Breaker of Chains and not immediately just jump to Daenerys Targaryen.
Yeah. I never watched or read any of the Game of Thrones series, so
Yeah,
I
I keep
can't
telling you,
relate.
get on that.
I will get there. I'm leeching off of your HBO now, so I kind of have to.
Good. Yeah.
That's like the tax.
Exactly. And Chase actually told me that he was wanting to get caught up on Red Rising. So
Oh, what a good guy.
maybe maybe he'll actually catch up with us and we can have him on the pod.
I think it'll be interesting, especially like when we get to like where you're at in Golden Sun. It'll be interesting, like if you guys want to add stuff in as you read, like from your perspective as a fresh reader. Whereas like I'm going back and reading it, and I know the consequences of stuff, and I know all of this. Like I think we'll definitely have some interesting discussions.
Yeah, having someone who is a little bit ahead, someone who's completely ahead, and then someone who literally just read it. It would be good to have all three of those perspectives. So hopefully he
Yeah,
gets on that and, as Leah does, locks the fuck in.
yeah, yeah. This is a
Yeah,
chapter. They all lock in a little bit more.
they do.
Um, but the end result of that debate between Roke and Darrow is they need to attempt at least to propose an alliance, and Darrow doesn't want to do that because he wants to be he needs to be in charge. He needs to be a high up in the government.
Yeah, I mean, government efficiency, two with two leaders. Sorry, I gotta cut that out.
Okay, okay, buddy, that is fucking wild.
It is kind of wild. But we mentioned before Severo is a tribe of one, and the only person that he really meets with is occasionally Quinn, but he's very much isolated and on his own at this point.
Yeah, he. I hate saying this because like it makes me think of like the alpha male people,
Oh
but
God.
he is literally a lone wolf right now. Like so that's the one problem I have with like the wolf symbolism is that that's what it makes me think of, but I love how it's done outside of that.
Yeah. We can't let the the like stinky alpha male community
Yeah.
ruin wolves. Can't let
I
them
know,
do
dude. That's why like Motionless in White has a song called Werewolf and I love the song. It's like synthy almost. It's peak. But it just makes me think of like those
the
guys. It's like,
toxic.
like,
Yeah.
come on. But
No,
whatever.
I understand that. Titus and his men attack Leah, which sparks a new debate between Roke and Darrow. And what do they talk about?
It's pretty much not. I guess I should. It's the same debate, but
Okay, so
they really kind of lock in that answer of, all right, we need to. We can't have this keep happening. We need to become allies. There we go.
yeah, I mean, they can't hope to win anything if they're attacking each other. It's just not going to work out.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's the final result of their final debate for this chapter. I mean, their dichotomy is great. I love Roke and Darrow debates.
The poet and the reaper.
The poet and the reaper. Yeah, you might be the poet after that one.
Darrow decides to talk to Vixis, which Titus's is who which is Titus's brutal second in command, but Titus kind of intercepts and the two talk. Titus is really suspicious of Darrow, who smells like a campfire.
Yeah, because
Ooh.
Titus and his men and women, Titus and his people, they they don't know how to make fire, so they are just eating raw meat, and it's doing a number on them. I didn't put all of this in there because I really didn't want to type out all of
No,
that. But they're
you don't have to.
they're going through it digestively. There we go.
Digestively, yeah. They've
They're going
probably
through
got
it.
like worms and
They are
parasites and
poisoning the rivers. 'Cause they
oh,
also don't dig latrines properly.
oh, yeah. Titus, come on, man. Come on.
Yeah.
But Darrow finally makes his proposal that they stop raiding, start sharing resources and knowledge, but Titus, being the complete and utter asshole that he is, just he won't accept it. He dislikes how confident of a leader Darrow is.
Yeah, and they're kind of, they're in the hallway of this castle. Darrow's kind of cornered by Titus and Vixis, and he kind of just pounces on Vixis for a second and just sprints. And he's really on like an adrenaline high at this point. He just keeps repeating to himself, kind of the way that I read it at least is he's kind of repeating it like frantically, like "Holy shit, I didn't kill him!" Like "Thank God I didn't kill him." Just keeps
Yeah,
repeating that he didn't kill or he didn't kill Vixis. I
yeah.
think that's
Very,
interesting.
very hot headed moment, and he just barely is able to calm himself down enough to stop himself, which
Yeah,
it shows some interesting character development there.
yeah, because I mean, Darrow, I don't know, 8 chapters ago would have seen these golds and just kind of gone ham if given the opportunity.
Yeah, it's almost like he's learning a little bit of restraint now that he's living with the golds. He really has to, otherwise he won't survive.
Yeah, it's.
But that sorry,
I
go
think
ahead.
it's also sorry. I think it's also indicative of like his remorse for what he did to Julian. Because I mean, he even like yes, he had to kill Julian, but he really didn't want to. And honestly, I fuck with that. It's still one of his biggest regrets in book 6. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, I'm sure that it is because Darrow eventually does come to believe through his interactions with the golds, like even though that these are the horrible oppressive people, there's still I still don't want to be killing, you know? I have to kill in a lot of situations because of where he's at, and he's just always conflicted about it, which I think is the mark of someone who's not completely insane, obviously. I think that if you want to kill, there's clearly something wrong there, so it's good to see Darrow holding on to his humanity, even if it's just by a thread.
Yeah, unfortunately, there are a lot of people that Darrow does want to kill. That's
Yeah.
it's a very interesting line that he walks when it comes to that because like I think I said this last episode, or maybe I said it when we were recording this earlier. One of his quotes is he literally says that he weaves enemies into his twitching meat carpet. Like
Yeah, I
that's
think you
fucking
brought that up
insane.
on our first recording, and that's just a crazy
Probably.
damn quote.
Yeah. And like that's fucking insane. It's true. Like the way he describes what he does to the troops he's mowing down, it that's a good way to like describe it. But what the fuck? Darrow is
Yeah,
kind of psychotic.
yeah. You know what's really interesting about this world to me? I was thinking about how it's we've said this before that it's kind of like a crossover between like Game of Thrones and the Hunger Games in this first book with the whole concept of the Institute and everything, but I think that it's interesting because in books like the Hunger Games or the Divergent series, whatever other like sort of young adult teenagers fighting
Dystopia.
each other, dystopia. Yeah, exactly. It's a very broken world and it's usually post apocalyptic. This world is not that. It's a little bit different in that it's a progression of humanity. Humanity it hasn't gone through this big apocalypse, it's gone through this strict caste system that's developed, and it they believe that their society has gone further instead of gone backwards. I don't know. I just think that it's sort of an interesting way to distinguish this
Yeah.
book from the other ones.
Well, yeah, because you think about like this book came out in 2014. This is when like the Hunger Games young adult dystopia craze was so massive, And I think that's ultimately why the book series is still going on. I mean, and why it's gotten so much more popular over the years is because it sets itself apart. But even then, like I will say, the first book does skew a bit too Hunger Gamesy, in my opinion. But I think that as long as you can get through the first book and you start the second book, it it becomes very clear that that's not what he's going for. Like he has a plan for what he wants to do. I'm I'm interested to see how he ends the series. I have a theory that just because why would he? I don't think Darrow is going to survive the series.
Yeah, I see Darrow as a very tragic figure who's going to end up being either a villain or be martyred from just seeing his anger and what is going on with him this early in the book. But I agree with you that like the first book is very Hunger Gamesy, and then after that, very Game of Thronesy. It transitions very fast, and it doesn't stay too long in the young adult Hunger Games type of space. It
Yeah.
really transitions very well. It doesn't overstay its welcome in that genre.
Yeah, and I would say the second book has two relatively Game of Thronesy scenes. The gala. I mean, I love the gala. That
Yeah,
that's a
that's
chapter of
fantastic.
all time. And then the last couple chapters skew very Game of Thronesy, but it's just reminiscent. It doesn't feel like it was ripped straight out. It was more just like like I could see this happening in Game of Thrones type.
Yeah, yeah, like political drama type of stuff.
Yeah. Also some very brutal scenes, but that's
Yeah.
whatever.
And that brings us to the beginning of chapter 24, which is titled Titus's War. Richard, do you want to start us off?
Oh, sure. Darrow's running for his fucking life, obviously, after the last chapter where he kind of snapped. There we go. I really can't talk today.
Neither can I. You're chilling.
But yeah, he snaps, and as he's running out of the keep, he kind of tells all of his tribe mates to run with him, and they escape. Everything is all happy and great, and that's good.
Yeah. And we also get some information that Titus is raiding the house series lately, or daily now, actually, and he's giving tribal trophies out to his troops to keep morale up. And I think that some of them are quite gruesome trophies from what I remember, like giving out
It's like a
animal.
deer skull, but it's
Yeah,
still like it's not clean. It's
yeah.
still very like crusted in blood, and it's disgusting. Lots of stuff like that. Like, oh my god, what's the example I'm trying to think of? I don't know if you ever played The Forest, but it reminds me of The Forest because of just how gross that game is.
The forest is the one where you're being hunted by cannibals in the woods, right?
Yeah, and it is a game that you and I need to like. We gotta play.
Yeah, we should play that absolutely. But yeah, all of these trophies are really nasty. It makes me think of like people who would drink wine out of a empty skull or something. It's just gross, you know.
Yeah, I will say drinking wine out of like a horn is cool,
Oh yeah, that's different. That's a different vibe
but a
entirely.
skull, like, yeah, is it metal as fuck? Sure, but it's also disgusting.
Yeah. Darrow gets to watch one of these raids on Ceres and Sue as Titus takes another slave with great brutality, giving her house the choice to either snap her neck or let him lasso her off their ramparts. This is
Yeah,
just so
that's
fucked
a
up.
brutal choice. Like, because he gets the lasso around her neck, which great accuracy on Titus's part. I'll give him that. He is quite the athlete. But then he starts pulling, and her house pulls to like keep her safe, they can't get the rope off. It's gonna fucking snap her neck.
Yeah. So
So yeah,
Titus is just once again proving himself grade A monster. And actually, in this moment where he's extremely monstrous, they figure out that Titus didn't kill Priam, and now Cassius believes that he is the one who killed Julian, which is quite convenient for Darrow.
yeah, and Darrow's a grade A gaslighter in this book. All right, he really is stoking the flames between like Cassius and Titus. But what I think is an interesting way or an interesting part is we don't know who killed Priam. I mean, I know we know who killed Priam, but the reader at this point does not know who killed Priam, and
Hmm.
that's important. It's important to know. I don't know
It
if you
is.
remember.
I don't quite remember, but I'm sure that once we get there, we'll I'll remember. But
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. Titus, he doesn't do a whole lot to get rid of those rumors that he's the one who killed Julian. He doesn't do much to try and convince anyone that it wasn't him.
No, he even though like yeah, there is his claim where he said he killed Priam, but like logically that doesn't make sense because the whole thing is that they want to pit up. They wouldn't pit like someone who's guaranteed to win that Titus against someone who got nepotismed into the institute.
No,
There's a
for
better
sure
word
not.
for that, but we're gonna go with that.
Got nepo babied into it.
Yeah, nepo babied, sure. Got nepo babied into the institute. Like they wouldn't put him against someone who's obviously going to murder him. They would put
Yeah,
him against someone else from like a lower house who's maybe like a little runt.
exactly. And Roke has a really good line here, which is blood begets blood begets blood.
And
Just
it
talking
just
about that
keeps
cycle of
going.
violence. Yep.
Yeah. My of course, I think that's a great quote, don't get me wrong. But Lorna Alarcos said it better with death begets death begets death.
Yeah. I mean, I'm excited for when we get some Lorna Arcos stuff
He
later.
is a great character and I
He
love
really
him.
is. Very metal guy. But Titus cuts off a Ceres slave's ear in front of the Ceres castle as an intimidation tactic. In retribution for all of the fucking around that Titus is doing, to put it nicely, Ceres gives Titus and his men loaves of bread, which they thought was tribute, and actually they had razor blades baked into them. When I read that, I was like, fuck yeah, get that asshole Titus.
Yeah, I liked that part. That was I mean, they deserved it. This guy's a fucking asshole. And there's other stuff that we're going to talk about in a minute that is even worse that he does, but again, you know, to each it's everything in its own time. That's what
Yeah,
I was trying to say.
exactly. Titus retaliates against this whole razor blades in the bread shenanigans by bringing 5 slaves to the gate, giving 4 of them long wooden sticks, and then commanding them to beat the 5th person. And that 5th person was none other than the one girl that he lassoed off the ramparts. This poor girl, like, my god, man, she's just going through a meat grinder with fucking
Yeah.
Titus.
Surely that's the last of it though, right?
Nope. Titus, then this is a little bit heavy. So just a quick content warning for this. Um, Titus then ties and gags her in front of the gate and has a female of House Mars scream that she's being raped, pretending to be the Ceres slave. And then the actual Ceres slave gets trampled by riders in the morning and most likely dies, but we don't know for sure.
Yeah,
My,
the like medbots and stuff got her, but they she never came back. So odds are she's fucking dead or
yeah,
just not able to operate as a person anymore.
yeah. So uh, I'm gonna headcanon and say that she's living her best life, recovering in the hospital right now from Titus, and she'll make a full recovery and go back to normal life. But not sure if that's true or not.
We're gonna
Um,
go with that though. I like that more than the other option.
yeah. And Titus and his raids, they're kind of at a standstill right now. He can't really do much more to House Series. He's kind of struggling to get anything done, so he decides that he's going to turn his horrific, fucked up gaze inwards towards his fellow House Mars people.
Yeah, it's spreading.
It is spreading. Not good, not good, not good. And that's the end of chapter 24. Any thoughts before we move on to the next one?
I wish that that was the most fucked up thing that happened in this series. Honestly, unfortunately, it's it's just a consistent downhill spiral. I'd say though, actually, it gets better after book 5. Book 5, Dark Age. truly is the darkest of the books.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
I we'll get to those eventually. Those are going to be some heavy episodes, I think.
yeah, it's not great. I mean,
Yeah.
it's super well written, but Pierce like
Oh, for sure.
sometimes the detail is a bit much. You know?
Yeah, it's really sometimes you don't need all that detail. Sometimes you can just have enough, like have a little bit of information, and the rest can be off screen. You don't need to see the full
Yeah,
picture of what's happening, in my opinion, for a lot of things like that.
yeah.
But anyways,
The thing I do appreciate though is that he does not like writing torture scenes, so he doesn't write torture scenes,
yeah,
and that
that is
I'm
good.
grateful. I'm grateful because he, even though he doesn't write them, he still like explains how they were tortured. He just doesn't go into too much detail, and
Hmm.
like if he went into detail, I think that it would just the book would be too much at that point.
I agree, and I think that in a lot of cases, in TV shows or movies, books, whatever, when you have those really intense torture scenes or like um, uh, violence against women or anything like that, they tend to be kind of overdone and just really unnecessary. Like we didn't need to see that whole depiction. I don't know. That's just my
I'm with you.
thought. It can come across as like you're just doing that for the sake of putting it in, and it doesn't feel that it's adding a whole lot of value to the story. But yeah, that brings us to chapter 25, Tribal War, which we find out there's still no other signs or no sign of any of the other houses besides Ceres and Mars, which is concerning because there's what 12 houses and they've only met one other house.
Yeah, they're honestly, I'm kind of glad though that they don't meet. Like they meet a lot of the houses, but they don't meet every single house and give us a rundown of the members. It's like a few notable members from each house, and
Hmm.
that's it. I think adding that many people in would just be too much to like too much to manage. You know?
Yeah, we don't need to have hundreds of characters. We don't need to know about the houses that get like taken out immediately. It's just we don't need all that.
Yeah, I think there's 4 houses that got taken out pretty much immediately, which
Hmm.
is great. Great job to that guy who did that.
Yeah, great job to our favorite Nepo baby in the Institute.
Honestly, second favorite.
True, true, second favorite. I know who you're gonna say. You don't
Yeah,
need to say
yeah.
it.
I'm gonna say it. I love Mustang. She's so goaded.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were gonna go with Cassius.
Cassius isn't a nepo baby. He made it
He's
into
from
the
the
institute.
Albolona family. He's a
Yeah,
Nepo baby.
but he made it into the institute by taking the
Listen,
tests.
there's plenty of people in real life who are Nepo babies and still very good at what they do, like Maya Hawke. Very good actress.
I thought you were gonna
Still,
go with Jack Quaid.
I mean, I could have, but I don't really like Dennis Quaid that much, so I wasn't gonna go with him.
Okay, fair, but Jack Quaid is my favorite nepo baby IRL. I love
Jack
him.
Quaid is a fantastic actor. That's another good example of Maya Hawke, great actress, Nepo baby. Jack Quaid, great actor, especially in The Boys, which we have some coverage of on this channel. So if you
We do.
are looking for that, go check it out. But
Yeah.
um, Cassius and Darrow begin to scout uh, outside of Castle Mars, leaving as they hear the screams of horror, which I'll give another content warning here for sexual violence that uh, it gets revealed that Titus has been raping the female slaves that he's taken from House Ceres, which, once again, he's such a monster. Like, absolutely awful guy.
Yeah, I will say, given his backstory, if there wasn't so much extra violence, especially violence against women like this, you would almost feel for him. But
Yeah, he.
thankfully, like he knows how to write a good villain. Well,
Yeah,
sub villain, I guess. He's not really the main, but
yeah. You've got this guy who is doing all of these awful things, and it's the. He was brought to this point of being awful by, I would say, probably a combination of nature and nurture, but he definitely had a fucked up upbringing that led him to be this way, which is no excuse for him to do all of the things that he's done, but it does
Yeah,
add some more complexity to that character, which is so much better than having a flat out villain.
yeah.
I mean,
It's
he is a flat out villain, but
he is a flat out villain, but I like that he's not just evil for evil's sake. I hate villains who are just like, oh yeah, I'm evil because I felt like it. I like villains who are like they were human at one point.
yeah, he's not just like a mustache twirling evil dude that's out here doing evil things because he wants to laugh evilly at the good people. Like, I don't know, it's a little
Yeah,
bit more realistic of a story, and I appreciate that, especially
yeah,
from this book, because it could have easily gone the young adult trope way and
yeah,
just had one-dimensional characters.
yeah. Even I know we're getting into like spoiler territory, so I won't say too much. But even Nero Al Augustus has some fucking backstory that humanizes him.
There really aren't There's no one-dimensional characters in this series that I can think of off the top of my head. Everyone has a little bit of complexity to them, so yeah,
I
just
would
great
say
writing.
Octavia doesn't have too much, but you're also like Octavia, as much as she's drawn up, like she's built up to be like so important, we don't get as much of her backstory and stuff. It's more about her in the present day.
Yeah, I would say that she's in the point of the story where we find her, she's not so much a character as she is the embodiment of the concept of the Imperium, of the society.
Yes, I would not even consider her to be the final villain of the first trilogy.
Yeah.
It would be
Ooh,
that one nepo
interesting.
baby. It would be that one nepo baby.
Oh,
Uh huh.
that's very interesting.
I
Okay,
know.
okay. I see. But yeah, they go back to their base after scouting out the situation, and they run into their old buddy Fitchner on the way, their proctor, if you don't remember that name. And Fitchner says that if they want it to stop, Darrow and Cassius, they need to stop it themselves. No one's going to do it for them. They have to take action. And what does Darrow do here?
Dare comes up with the first. Honestly, it's a little baby one, but he comes up with the first ever Reaper plan, and Reaper plans, they're great. This one, kind of shit because it doesn't even work. But I was just excited when I was writing the outline because I did write this, of course, at 3 in the morning, and I
After
saw
building
Derek.
your Lego set?
Yes, after building my Lego set, and so like obviously, I was just hyped to see Darrow coming up with a plan. Man, I love Darrow plans.
Darrow plans are great. Uh, Quinn then proceeds to deliver an apology to Antonia, but gets kidnapped by Titus, and Cassius went to go get her back after she gets kidnapped by Titus, which is, I wonder how that's gonna go.
Um, Not great. So they both get out, of course. Cassius comes back though, and he is bloody. He's broken, and he reveals that all of Titus's men got in a circle around him, and they pissed on him. It's kind of nasty.
Yeah, after he returns from that really, really awful and humiliating turn of events, we learn one of Titus's men actually set him free, which do we know if this is someone who has some leanings towards maybe siding with Titus and Cassius, or leaning towards siding with Darrow and Cassius?
I believe that this guy or girl, I don't know, this person does join their side once events happen, but I couldn't give you specifics because I don't even think they get a name.
Mm,
And
interesting.
if it was a named character, then it's someone who isn't whose name is not used after the first book. I could tell you that because there
Right.
are quite a few. Like I don't even remember which ones die and aren't important because people do die, unfortunately, or
Yeah.
fortunately. Some of them it's fortunately, but there are. I don't even know if it's someone who died or if it's just someone who went off to go do unimportant things because they weren't that great in the institute.
Yeah, for sure. And Cassius is at his all-time low, and Roke sort of explains to Darrow that Cassius's dream in life is to be an Olympic knight. And Cassius, he's got some rage in him at this moment, and he declares that he's going to be the one to end Titus.
Yeah, he really is very headstrong, and that plays into his whole wanting to be an Olympic Knight. I think
Mm,
we went over the Olympic Knights in an earlier episode, but they're so cool.
yeah,
I
I think we went over them in our not our. I
Probably
don't
our
think we did
first
a
one.
preview episode, but yeah, our first episode.
Yeah. Cassius wants to be an Olympic Knight, and I just think they're so cool. I'm not gonna make this into a huge tangent, but like my favorite Olympic Knight is the Fear Knight,
Tangent
and
away, Richard. Tell us all about him.
I can't because
Oh,
he's been plotting stuff for years, and it's he's currently plotting stuff actually. Where we're at, but we don't know about him.
he's
But
you when we
but
play Crusader Kings, always plotting against everyone.
I am plotting against everyone in Crusader Kings. It's not my fault. I'm playing Sauron, all right? Like I it's like putting on a ring of power. I am just tainted as soon as I play as him. But not the Fear Knight throughout history, whoever kills the Fear Knight gets to be called the man who slayed fear. And I think that that is such an awesome moniker.
I would rather be the man who slayed fear than the Fear Knight.
Yeah, I think the Storm Knight is cooler though. Like,
I always like any sort of moniker having to do with storm. Like, I don't
yeah.
know. I think there's a lot of those in Game of Thrones because they have the Stormlands, and so there's like the Laughing Storm or the Storm King or like
Yeah.
all those different monikers.
You'd love the Stormlight Archive, buddy. You know who the main one of the main characters is?
What?
Kaladin Stormblessed.
Oh,
And the whole mythology on that in that series is based around like the Storm Father, like that's their like one of their gods. So he's literally blessed by the gods, is what that means. I love Kaladin Stormblessed.
that's sick. Yeah, I got to get on those books for sure.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
get to
you
them.
better. Well, once you get to Cosmere, like then it opens up into like 40 books you got to read. So save that for after Red Rising.
I'll have to pop down to my favorite local bookstore and grab it.
Yeah,
Shout out Kramer's in DC.
Kramer. I'm a Barnes and Noble shill.
Yeah, go. That's because there's no like locally owned bookstores in our area, though. Like we literally only have a
Yeah.
Barnes and Noble in Buffalo.
We actually have three, and
Yeah.
I've been to all three every like 3 weeks for the last year almost. Not year,
Mm,
6 months looking for Dark Age, and I finally got it today. I'm so happy. My
nice.
collection's complete.
Meanwhile, I live in a city that has the most independent bookstores in America, so I always like to go and support those and instead of
Yeah.
the big companies when I can.
I mean, you know me. I don't like supporting massive companies that much, but I kind of have to, unfortunately.
Yeah, you don't have too much of a choice. Your options are Barnes and Noble and Amazon.
Yeah, but I'll give it to Barnes and Noble before I give it to Amazon, even though I am an Audible subscriber, so I am giving to Amazon there.
I pay for Prime every month, so I can't really say anything.
Yeah, I'm not a scumbag. I don't pay for Prime. My mom does.
I just bought some dashi packets on Prime, and I'm gonna make some miso soup when those come in.
Ooh, that's
I've been doing
nice.
so much cooking lately. It's been a lot of fun having a full kitchen again.
Yeah, I went to a meat raffle yesterday for Pat's. It was a fundraiser for his volleyball team.
Oh, sweet.
I I won like a 5 pound pork roast. It was
So when am I eating all of that?
well, it depends. If I can make the recipe I want to make today, then you're not. But if I don't make it today and I make it next Sunday instead, there will be enough leftovers. I
Okay,
think I'll
okay.
just make it next Sunday so that like, or maybe I just make it next like Friday for the thing that we're having, and I could do like pulled pork with it. Actually, you're gonna want to cut
Whatever.
this out by the way.
I'll leave it in. The folks can listen to our pulled pork plans.
Yeah, but no, I'll have to see because I would like to do pulled pork actually. Now that I think of it, instead of the recipe that I currently was thinking.
Yeah. Well, this has been a very cooking centric episode. We've been talking about pulled pork, miso soup, and pumpkin cookies.
And Titus eating raw meat. Well, that's not cooking, but that's like about why you should cook.
Yeah. And before we wrap things up, I did want to say that we've been talking a little bit over here on our team, and we think that we might get a Patreon set up soon, which we just want to have the framework in place so that we can get out early and ad-free podcasts to people, especially before some of our bigger shows like Invincible come out. We're very much right now in an in-between phase. So, we don't expect a lot of people to want recurring subscriptions because it's very loose content right now. We don't have a super big plan because there's not a lot of shows or things coming out now that we have a lot to say about. But we just wanted to get that out there and kind of get started with that. So more news to come on that, but we have been thinking about that for a while and talking about getting that up and running.
I was not privy to this discussion beforehand. I know this was more you and Chase cooking this up.
It was talking about it at the kitchen table.
Oh, that's nice. We don't have a kitchen table. Oh, fuck. I almost just fell out of my chair.
That's staying
Yeah,
in the podcast.
don't cut it out. That was fun.
But Richard, do you want to let people know how they can get a hold of us?
I'd love to. This is where I shine, and I'm not going to fuck it up. So,
Yeah,
we
that's
good.
what you always say.
I know, right? But first off, we'd like to just say thank you for listening. We appreciate it, obviously. We love yapping, and if anyone wants to hear us yap, that's great. It's what we do. But we have our email set up that Aaron has finally given us all access to, which is radioactive at thelorehounds.com. We have a channel set up for Radioactive Ramblings within the Lorehounds Discord server. You could send us messages, chat about the show, sort of whatever. We also have a contact form, or you could leave us a voicemail at thelorehounds.com. And we now have a Blue Sky account at Radioactive 141. We also would appreciate a rating on Apple Podcasts.
And before we let you all go, I did want to take a moment to shout out some of the podcasts that we're affiliated with because we are proud members of the Barovian Broadcasting Network, which is run by the Lorehounds. The Lorehounds is our parent podcast, and they actually just finished up their coverage of Agatha All Along, which they graciously invited me on for the wrap-up episode, so expect that coming out very soon if it's not already out, and give that a listen. They also have coverage of Dune Prophecy coming up next now that Agatha All Along is over, so stay tuned if you are into Dune or any sort of sci-fi. Speaking of sci-fi shows that are coming out that are really fantastic, the new season of Silo just started, and Alicia over at Woolshift Dust and her co-host, they're going to be covering Silo in full. They have screeners, so the episodes are going to be coming out really soon after the actual episode drops on Apple TV+. Go check that out. Her podcast started with Silo, which is where the name Woolshift Dust comes from, and she's just fantastic over there. Go give her Silo coverage a listen. Properly Howard Movie Review, which rates movies on a scale of better or worse than a Ron Howard movie, is doing a little bit of Penguin coverage. They released a season beginning episode, and then they just released a season wrap-up, and on their season wrap-up, they mentioned that they had coverage plans coming for a new season of Properly Howard in full, so stay tuned for that. And I believe that Marilyn over at Rings and Rituals with Dr. Sarah Brown are currently on hiatus, but they'll have some news probably fairly soon on the Rings of Power front, so stay tuned for that. And Alicia also has the Star Wars Canon Timeline podcast, which is going to be coming back very soon. So give that a listen. And last but not least, the newest addition to the network, Nevermind the Music, where Mark and Nicole talk about the different themes in music, and they just have a really accessible show for listeners like me who don't know a whole lot about music. And it's also super entertaining. They're two very funny individuals. They have a great rapport with one another. So go check that out. Links to all of these shows, as well as information on how to get a hold of us, it's going to be in our show notes. So go pop on down to the show notes and you can find easy access to any of this. Thank you all for listening, and we hope that you join us for the next episode.